وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَا هُم بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. If you're going to learn Qur'an, don't listen to anybody other than Minshawi and Husri. You start to realize how much your love for the deen increases when your love for people is because of the love of Allah. I was deputy young mayor myself. I wanted to be like a politician one day, and that was my way of giving back to the community.
The Prophet ﷺ had a teacher.
Yeah, and they used to read it at Ramadan. They used to read together at Ramadan. I was in the middle of my A-levels. Alhamdulillah, I did really well on my A-levels as well. And then my students, they say, Ustadh, why do you read the Qur'an so much? Yeah, you don't need to, it's fine. And I say the same thing my teacher said to me, the hard part is after you finished. At 17, imagine I'm going to my first ever Kitab al-Tawheed class. I didn't want to go. I was so against it. Different teachers from different places, from different countries, they all say the same thing, because the Qur'an unites people.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the hifdhstatus podcast, episode 2, where we joined with our new guest today, inshallah. We're going to be unpacking his journey with the Qur'an, finding out what kept him motivated on his journey, what allowed him to reach the level that he's reached, and inshallah, we're going to be exploring some of the new avenues that this brother, inshallah, has been on, for example, attaining Ijazah, advice to potential Hafidh who want to go onto that journey, inshallah. Brother Dawoud, who we're joining with today, has memorized the Qur'an. He's 18 years old, that's correct, and he finished memorizing the Qur'an at the age of 16. All here in London. He didn't travel abroad, he didn't go over to Egypt, he didn't go to any other Arab country to study the Qur'an. He done it from the comfort of London, alhamdulillah, well, not the comfort of London, but from the chaos of London. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, we're going to find out what kept him motivated on the journey, what kept him disciplined, any tips that he has to share for us on our journeys, how we can stay motivated and consistent ourselves, inshallah. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Dawood. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First of all, jazakallah khair for coming on to the podcast.
I have to say jazakallah khair for having me. That's what's
SubhanAllah, I know you're very busy, SubhanAllah, with I've seen your initiatives, mashallah.
You know what it is? There's certain things you have to make time for. This is one of them.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow it to be a sadaqah jariyah.
Ameen.
A form of ongoing charity. And SubhanAllah, the previous episode was really beneficial. We got a lot of people reaching out saying how beneficial it was for their own journey. They could resonate on so many levels to what was said. So inshallah, you're going to provide another insight, a deeper insight into that, inshallah.
May Allah allow people to benefit.
Ameen. Inshallah, just to let us know sort of a bit more about your Qur'an journey. So when did it start? How old are you when you began your journey to the Qur'an? What got you started?
You know, the thing is, my first memory of the Qur'an is when I'm lying in bed. I think I was like 5 years old, and I was just listening to Sheikh Sudais on like a tape or something. And then my mom obviously tells me stories and stuff. She tells me, like, for example, that when I was in her belly, that she used to recite Qur'an at night, every day and night. So things like that, just from a young age, my mom just surrounded me with Qur'an. Alhamdulillah. So like you have to make dua for your parents. When you see those kind of things manifest for you, like you just like are so grateful for what they do for you. And of course, like, it's a ni'mah from Allah to have parents like that. There are many people who don't even have parents. My Qur'an journey, how did it happen? Obviously, I started, like, the first juz I memorized, I was 7 years old. I memorized Juz Amma when I was 7, and then slowly, by the time I was like 11, I memorized up to Surah Qaf. Yeah, so, and there was like a debate between my mom and dad whether they should send me to madrasa full-time or send me abroad maybe. My dad was like the one that argued we need to send him to secular education, get him through his studies, and also at the same time teach him Qur'an and Islamic studies as well. My mom just wanted to send me away, basically. So obviously my dad won the argument, and they ended up enrolling me into my local masjid, basically, Shahpuran Masjid. It's in Hackney Road. Big shout out to them. I still teach. I do a halaqah there every day. Not every Friday, sorry, not every day. But yeah, the masjid has a lot of barakah. And even to this day, there's still Hufadh that come out of that masjid. So
that's Hackney, that's right in the heart of London.
Yeah, on Hackney Road as well. So yeah, so I started going to Shahpuran when I was 11, and I finished when I was 16.
So up until the age of 11, you'd memorise what, 4.5?
Yeah, four.
Coming up to 4 juz.
Yeah, just about 4 juz.
Yeah.
the last manzil, they call it in.
Yes.
Yeah, the Sahaba, they used to separate the Qur'an out like that. But yeah, I mean, from young, my parents, they always pushed me to that.
The parents play a huge role.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, all I remember is literally listening to shuyukh and just imitating them. So like even now I can imitate many shuyukh.
Sheikh Mansour Salami, we know about that one. Sheikh Mahir Mu'atli, we're gonna get you to Islam.
Maybe, inshallah. There's better imitations of me. This is Sheikh Ibrahim from Masjid Mamnawi. Class. Inshallah, I'll be leading Tarawih with him this year in Ramadan. But yeah, you know, funny thing, Sheikh Abdul Fattah does not like my Mahir Mu'atli voice. Yeah, he does not like it. He says that my tajweed is horrible with it. And I could see where it's coming from. And you know, you hear from the ulama, they say, if you're going to learn Qur'an, don't listen to anybody other than Minshawi and Husri. And you can see why. But I enjoy listening to Mahir. And my dad as well. My dad, he was telling me that when he went to Hajj in like 2011, he first heard Mahir there, the Sheikh Mahir, and he was like, he always tells me, it's like listening to running water. When you listen to his voice, like running water just coming down. But yeah. Your
journey with the Qur'an started at home, definitely with your parents.
Yeah, definitely. I memorized all of those Ijazah with my dad and my mum.
SubhanAllah.
And more so my mum. Because the thing is, I know if my mum watches this, she will probably get angry that I didn't give her the credit that's due.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, with my dad, he obviously sat down with me. And he taught me, because my dad was actually, he used to teach Qur'an when he first came to this country in 1995, literally in Shadwell. He was the imam there for a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, alhamdulillah.
And when you made that transfer you went to a madrasa, yeah?
It wasn't like a madrasa, it was a part-time madrasa after school. So I used to go to school, and straight after school, 5 days a week. At the beginning it was 6 days a week. And then after they changed it to 5 days a week, and it would be 3 hours every day. And after school would go and everything. But yeah, alhamdulillah.
Where did you, because obviously growing up in London, you know, in the heart of London, Hackney, that's quite a rough area.
Yeah.
It's not like the Arab lands. You're not hearing it 5 times a day.
Yeah.
You're surrounded with a lot of fitna. You know, the people that you're around, that you're almost forced to be around a lot of the time, your age. So how did you sort of learn to take that or discipline yourself to get to where you are now, in a sense of becoming a Hafidh by the age of 16? Because you memorized the rest of the Qur'an in 5 years.
You know what it was? The first thing I'd say is ni'mah from Allah. That's definitely, no doubt about that. And then the second thing I'd say is that I didn't actually do it. I didn't do it the way I should have done it. What I mean by that is that there was a period of my life where I wasn't fully on it to practice with the Qur'an. Yeah. And sure enough, you find many Hufadh like that today. And like I talk about it many times. Like there's 2 periods of where I memorized the Qur'an. There was one between that period 11 to 16, and again from 16 to 18 I re-memorized it basically. So it's obviously hard, no doubt about it. And Allah tells us, Wallahu yahdi man yasha'u ila siratin mustaqim. Allah guides whom He wills to the straight path. And even in the Hadith Qudsi, Allah says, Kullukum dhalin illa man hadayta. All of you are misguided except for who I guide. So when you take that into perspective, there's only one way to go about it when it comes to fitna. Like obviously there's practical steps you can go about it, but I think that literally if it wasn't because of Allah, I wouldn't be here where I am today. And I look back now and I see everything, and I see the qadr of Allah, and it just amazes you. Because honestly, like you look at me 3 years ago, you'll never see me thinking he'd be on this podcast today. You'd never think he'd be, reciting the Qur'an, stuff like that. Obviously I was known to go to those, my dad used to tell me to go to those stuff, but I didn't have the marks of it on my, actions and stuff. Yes. But yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So in terms of your background, I'm interested to are you Arab yourself or?
No. My parents are Bengali. It's actually funny. Like every time, because my sheikh is Somali, and every time I go there, the majority of his students are Somali as well. So my sheikh calls me Somali Bengali. He doesn't think I'm Bengali, and even like the other Somali brothers there, They can't believe that I'm Bengali. I don't know why, but I think that it's because that they're almost shocked that a Bengali has can recite the Quran like that. And wallah, when I hear that, I take upon myself when I say I need to teach my people. When I first started to practice, there's that kind of selfishness, nafsi. I need to care about me. I need to get away from here and stuff like that. But then you start to mature a bit and you start to think, and even if you see the ulama, they say that after you seek the knowledge, it's wajib upon you to give da'wah. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Allah commands the Prophet ﷺ to say, this is my path that I call to Allah, upon basira, clarity. And the scholars, they say that clarity is knowledge. So you need the knowledge, then you have to call to Islam, basically. And sometimes you see that people, they don't really embark on knowledge, they give da'wah straight away. Or do you see the complete opposite, where they have knowledge and they don't do anything, it's just themselves. So slowly, like even now, I'm not saying I'm knowledgeable or anything, but I'm saying that the little knowledge that I have is upon me to spread it, basically, and teach, whether it's my family, my friends, and obviously I have many Bengali friends, so I try to give it out to them slowly.
In terms of that, so seeking knowledge and memorizing the Qur'an, how important is it, that knowledge that you seek? Because you mentioned, something that you just mentioned was that there was a period where you obviously memorized and learned a lot of the Qur'an, then you realised you had to consolidate it again, because you might have forgotten it or you might have become weakened. How important is it for people on that journey of becoming Hafidh or getting closer to the Qur'an, memorizing the Qur'an, that they consolidate what they know and they have a sort of plan? Or how did you go about making a plan for yourself?
If I was to be honest, when I finished, I had no aim to revise. I had no aim to revise. I was, them ones there where you're just like,
I made it.
Yeah, I finished. Alhamdulillah. So I was in that mindset of I'm gonna finish, I'm gonna rush, I'm gonna finish, and then I'm gonna chill. I'm relaxed. I've done all that hard work, it's fine. And then my ustads, they used to always say that the real hard work comes after you finished. And I didn't realize that until I finished. Because it's so easy to memorize. You can memorize very quickly. Yeah. Especially if you've got that muscle memory of memorizing. Yeah. But it's recalling that. It's recalling it. Yeah. And even today, sometimes I'll be teaching Qur'an, and if I'm not taking anybody's tests or anything, I'll just be reciting the Qur'an. And then my students, they say, Ustad, why do you read the Qur'an so much? Yeah, you don't need to, it's fine. And I say the same thing my teachers say to me, the hard part is after you finished. And obviously they know the virtue of being a Hafidh and everything. Most people when they're young, they know that being a Hafidh is such a lofty status. So they want to finish it off. And the thing is, as humans, we're wired to go through the easy route. We want success, but we don't want to give it. There's that saying, people want to go Jannah, but they don't want to die. It's like that. So
people think when you become a Hafidh, that's it, you've got the title.
Yeah.
You're finished after that. And people think almost like Huffaz are relaxing. When you get to that, when you achieve that, you realise that the hardest part begins then, probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to retain it for the rest of your life.
I mean, I finished my hifdh at 16. By the time my A-levels came around, I started to realise, this is deep, I need to practice this.
That's when you're 18?
Yeah. I was 17 actually.
17, okay.
So I was 17, turning 18. Yeah. So literally, that was also when I started to take the deen seriously as well. Okay. So what I did was, personally, I knew that I was not going to be able to do what the Salaf used to do. I wasn't able to do 3 juz, not 5 juz. My ustads, they used to say, if you want to be a strong Hafidh, do 5 juz every day. Yeah. And literally my ustad, when I was young, he used to say the exact same words you used to say. And it's interesting here how you see different teachers from different places, from different countries, they all say the same thing. Because the Qur'an unites people. The Qur'an and Islam unites people together onto the truth, basically. So what I used to do myself is, at the beginning, I would start off with 5 pages a day. And I managed to do, what I used to do, I had a plan, basically. And it's something the Ottomans used to do. They used to start off with the last page instead of the front page. And what they did, the last page, then the penultimate page, and then the third last page, and so on and so forth.
The last page of every juz?
Yeah. Until
Interesting.
They've gone to done all of the Qur'an, but basically what they do is each time they do an extra page, they read the page that they've already finished before. So they've done about 30 khatams in one time, if you understand what I mean.
In 1 month?
No, as in like, imagine you've memorized the Qur'an. You're memorizing the Qur'an. You start off with Juz 1 from وَقَالُوا قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, yeah? And you memorize that page. And then you go to Juz 2. Then you go to Juz 3, Juz 4, Juz 5. The last page of all of those Juzes.
Yeah.
And then you come back to Juz 1. You do the penultimate page, meaning the second last page. You memorize that and you say the page that you've already memorized to your Ustadh.
Okay.
And you go on again, third page, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. So obviously I wasn't memorizing, I was revising. So what I did, I would do 5 pages. And then I'd do 5 pages, 5 pages, 5 pages every day. And the next time I do half a juz. The next time I did 3/4 of a juz. And then the next time I did 1 juz. It took me 1 year to do that. 1 year altogether. To consolidate it altogether. And then by the time I did that, because I remember a few of my friends, they're like, go get Ijazah, go get Ijazah. I was like, I'm not ready. I knew I wasn't ready. So
how would you explain Ijazah to people that don't know what an Ijazah is? Because I think we use that term quite a few times.
Yeah.
How do you explain that? Because it's a powerful concept, subhanAllah.
So an Ijazah is a chain of narration from the Prophet ﷺ all the way down to the person who's memorized the Kitab of Allah. So, and that's how the Qur'an was preserved throughout the centuries. If you see all of the qira'at that we have today, they either read to the tabi'een, meaning the people who saw the Sahaba, or the Sahaba themselves. So they had that chain of narration back to the Prophet ﷺ.
That's what preserved our ilm that we have.
Yes, and like the Salaf, they used to say, the deen is the chain of narration. And when you understand that, you start to realize how important the chain of narration is.
So you read to your sheikh, who read to this sheikh, who read to this sheikh, until you get to, you recognize Imam Jazari, for example.
Yeah.
And you recognize the Sahaba who read to the Prophet ﷺ, who, it doesn't stop at the Prophet ﷺ. And this is, I think, this is what makes the Ijazah of the Qur'an the most unique Ijazah, because all Ijazahs go back to a human being, except for the Ijazah of the Qur'an, which goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, who's a human being. But then it goes to Jibreel alayhi salam, because Jibreel came down to read it upon the Prophet ﷺ, and then it goes to
Allah.
Allah, Jalla fi'ala, subhanAllah. That, when you see that, and you see yourself at the bottom, because you read to your sheikh, and he made sure that you were reading correctly, with all of the, everything was transmitted to you. Because there's certain parts of the Qur'an that you can't hear via audio, you have to see your teacher recite it back to you.
For example, أعجمي وعربي. Hafidh and Asim. It's written أعجمي وعربي, but if you recite it, it's a tasheel basically. أعجمي وعربي.
Tasheel's in between Hamza and a Ha.
Yeah. So many things. Like for example, وقيل من راق. Why do we stop there? You don't know that unless you read the Shaykh. And here's the beauty of the Qur'an. The Qur'an is not written down, it's recited. It's not written down, it's recited.
It's oral translation.
Yeah. And that's the importance of the Ijazat. Yeah.
So what age, obviously there's people, and they've asked before, like, what's the advice? Because a lot of people memorize the Qur'an, but going from memorizing the Qur'an to gaining an Ijazah is a big jump.
Yes, big.
Because it doesn't just mean that you can say that to yourself that I'm a Hafidh, but now you have to actually go and prove it, sort of thing. It's literally prove that you're a Hafidh.
Yeah.
You have to go read to a sheikh over a period of time.
Perfect tajweed.
With perfect tajweed.
Because I'm telling you, if you go to a sheikh who has an Ijazah, they're not going to be easy on you. They're not going to be easy on you. As in, sometimes you're there and you're just like, yo, just let me read, man. It's like so long sometimes.
Yeah.
And
it's a bigger manner.
Definitely. Because you're no longer just somebody that has the title of Hafidh. You're being written down amongst the names of Ahlul Qur'an. And Ahlul Qur'an, as Imam Shatibi says, are Ahlullah, the people of Allah. So it's a big thing. If you want to, obviously we already said, if you want high status, if you have high ambition, you need to work hard. And Ijazahs are no joke. Like going back to my own story, I consolidated probably for a year and a half. And the thing is here, you need to understand planning here. Because I had so many people come to me and say, go, just do it. And by the way, I was in the middle of my A-levels. Alhamdulillah, I did really well on my A-levels as well. So I did my A-levels, I finished. And then in the summer holidays, that's when I went to recite to my sheikh.
What A-levels did you?
English, history, and politics.
MashaAllah, English, history, and politics.
Kind of regret English. I mean, honestly, okay, so I got A star, A star, A.
Oh, MashaAllah.
You can guess what my A was in.
English. Fair enough. What would you have done instead then?
Maths.
Maths, yeah.
Yeah, and plus it would have opened up so many more opportunities. Because right now I'm just narrowed into humanities. But so
you got the Qur'an, look, at the end of the day, people, when you got the Qur'an, when you've been given the Qur'an, the dunya is less than the Qur'an. Everything in the dunya, the Qur'an is the only pure thing, the only uncreated thing in the whole dunya. If you have that in your heart, the dunya is going to be made easy for you.
May Allah actually put it in my heart.
I mean. Why I like your stories because it's realistic. It's showing that you didn't just how we hear those fairy tales of someone memorized the Qur'an at the age of 7, they got an Ijazah at the age of 8.
He was born and became Shaykh al-Islam.
Yeah, exactly. Reading that message at the age of 9.
Yeah.
You learn the Qur'an, you start with your parents. A lot of people can resonate with that, subhanAllah. And even if they can't, then at least they can do the same for their children, for example. They can begin that, because that's where the first madrasa, the first teacher is their mother.
Yeah, like the advice to the parents is, if you want your child to be successful, you have to be successful. As in, like the children, like you said, the first madrasa is the mum. And when you start to realize that, like literally you have parents, and like when you teach yourself, you probably see parents, the parents that are there every day asking you, has my child said their test? Has my child increased in anything? Their children are the ones that are doing the best. Whereas the parents that come every few months and say, why is my child not Hafidh yet? Their children are just struggling. They're
detached from their child's
There are some parents that I see today, like like literally of the kids that I teach today, I've never seen them once. Not seen them once.
It's almost like just babysit them.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's unfortunately what seeking knowledge has become for young children now. And it's either that, or the parents become too impatient, meaning that, this teacher isn't literally putting the Qur'an in your heart properly, so now you need to go to a different teacher. It's as if they want you to pick up the Qur'an and like feed you with like it gets crazy at times.
Write the ayahs in your heart.
Yeah, like
people forget that a lot of the learning, most of the learning, I say, the foundations are done at home. It's even with the concept of
every ilm, whether it's secular, whether it's Islamic, every type of knowledge is done because of you. And like you see people who rely on others to give them their status goes like that.
Wow.
You need to be able to rely upon your first Allah, of course. Yeah, you want the tawakkul, but you need to do the means yourself. Don't rely on somebody else to write the Qur'an in your heart for you. Don't rely on somebody else to give you, a university degree. And you see a lot of people that they're coddled from young. They're brought up and they're given everything, and then they grow up. They're still successful. They've been to a private school. They've been to a good university, and now when they go into the real world, they're struggling because they don't have mom and dad to help them anymore, or brother and sisters.
So yeah, even the concept of this was one thing that Ustadh Jamal was used to emphasize to us when we were learning on him. Al-ilmu bayna al-talamid, knowledge is between the students, and that you can't go to the teacher, and the only time you ever learn is with the teacher.
Yes, definitely.
It has to be done. You have to take the initiative, like you said. Like you can't be if you're baby like from a young age, and that's not necessarily because of the teacher or the parent. It's because you are only learning with them. You have to consolidate it in your own time. Because even the concept of like giving the Qur'an your spare time, give it your precious time. If you give the Qur'an your spare time, you're not going to consolidate it. And I'm sure you can say that from experience. And are there any hadith in particular, or ayahs, or any words that were shared with you which kind of kept you going up till now?
The thing is, from young, my parents have always put it into my mind, you need to serve Islam. And I had many different methods for that. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they were bad. But when I had that mindset shift at like 17, I started to go to more lessons and stuff. It went like literally when I was 16, I was enrolled into the Young Mayor scheme. I was Deputy Young Mayor myself. I wanted to be like a politician one day. And that was my way of giving back to the community. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. So now, at 17, imagine I'm going to my first ever Kitab al-Tawheed class. I didn't want to go. I was so against it. But there were a few brothers. I'm not going to mention their name, but wallahi,
Allah
may Allah bless them. Because they literally dragged me to that class. And everything changes from that. Literally, when you start to learn the deen of Allah, you see everything changes. There's a reason why Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. The people who fear Allah the most are the people of knowledge. So if you want to fear Allah, you seek knowledge of Allah and His deen. So my mindset started to change. It's no longer, how am I going to change the community through politics? It wasn't even about how am I going to change the community anymore. It was more about how am I going to change myself. So it's like, it was more of a tazkiyatun nafs.
It begins that. It begins
Yeah.
with changing yourself.
Yeah. So then it switched from, like, my ambition. I remember, like I always said, I had high ambition. I wanted to do well in this life. So I always thought to myself, I'm going to do something with this life. So now it wasn't, I wanted to be a prime minister. It's not going to be, I'm going to be, a top lawyer or anything. I'm not going to make £1 million. My ambition then became, I'm going to start to change myself, and I'm going to change the people around me. Yeah, it doesn't need to be, the country or anything. Maybe just Bethnal Green, maybe Tower Hamlets, maybe Hackney. That's it. Just the area that I live in. That's all. If I change that, that's my life. That's fine. That's enough for me. And Ustadh Dawood, he used to tell us that the way people, like communities, countries, systems change is by starting off with one person changing, and then the family changing, then the neighborhood changing, then the building changing, then the community, then the country. That's how things change. He's like, there's no point of changing systems when the people are corrupt. Yeah, you can have a good system and everything, but you can have good politicians, you can have people that fear Allah while they're ruling the country. But what's the point if you have people below them that aren't gonna fear Allah at the same time?
So that's a powerful point. Even if you look at the order of the Qur'an, the chronological order, how you have Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila, stand at night. This is a fa'idah that we've shared at the Monday Muslim classes, Qur'an classes, by Ustadh Jamal, how the chronological order of the Qur'an comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and order is qum al-layla illa qalila, stand a portion of the night. And that is tazkiyatun nafs, that is qiyam al-layl, that is a private personal ibadah. And then the next one, Ya ayyuhal muddathir, qum fa'anzir. Almost after the tazkiyatun nafs, you working on yourself, you working on your own heart and your own ibadah, your own relationship between you and Allah. Then you're told, stand up and give the warning.
Yeah.
Stand up and now save others from the fire. And even then we're told, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum. Save yourselves and your family from the fire.
No point seeing the whole ummah in Jannah and you're in Jahannam. Yeah? Like Umar radiallahu anhu, he used to say, that if somebody was to tell me that there would be one person in Jannah, I hope that it's me. And if there was to be one person in Jahannam, I would fear that it's me as well at the same time. You see, he didn't say, yeah, I hope it's, my boy, he deserves it. He said, I want it to be me, I don't care about anybody else. Yeah. But at the same time, he wants to be saved as well. So sometimes you have to think, you have to prioritize yourself. And this is a big thing. Sometimes we have people that like to people please a lot. We like to please everybody else. Yeah, and we think that it's a sign of being a good Muslim. Sure enough, the Prophet tells us, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You won't believe until, one of you won't believe until you love for your brother or you love for yourself. No doubt about that. I'm not saying be rude to people, don't be harsh upon people. But I'm saying sometimes you have to stop trying to please the whole world. Because in trying to please the whole world, sometimes you disobey Allah. Because imagine, like, you please everybody, and this is a thing that you see a lot in our countries mainly, because we live in a system that praises the majority. The majority rules, yeah, and because of that, people have this misconception that the more people I make happy, the more happy I will be. There's a truth to that at times, but we have to be in the middle. As Muslims, we always stay in the middle path, and sometimes it's more beneficial to be selfish and to say, no, I won't come to this podcast. Sometimes it's good to say, yes, I will come to this podcast. And you need to prioritize yourself sometimes. And a lot of the times we see that it takes a toll on people's mental health. They're so busy helping other people, they don't help themselves. And like they'll be so busy helping other people seek knowledge, they're still on, juz amma. They don't know anything. And they'll be so busy teaching other people, they neglect their own studies.
Their own personal development, and subhanAllah. In terms of personal development and memorising the Qur'an and developing yourself, are there any tips that you can give for people that are trying to memorise the Qur'an? Because there's a lot of routines out there, a lot of different methods What works for you, and do you have any advice for people that are trying to find one?
I'd say what works for me won't work for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So you need to experiment yourself, and you need to die trying. Basically, if you die tomorrow, you need to be dying trying to rectify what you have of the Qur'an. Meaning that this isn't something that you can do overnight. You are going to die trying doing this. You're going to live your whole life trying to rectify the Qur'an. And like we said before, the hard part is after you finish. If you want to memorize the Qur'an, you need to, if you want practical steps, set out a time. Because a lot of the times you realize that people, they're in pursuit of this magic tip that's going to make them a Hafidh overnight. Yeah,
Very true.
and
Very true.
there's a one tried and tested method, and if I was to tell you what it was, it's to put hard work in. That's it.
That's it.
Keep a time every day to read the Qur'an, to memorize, and keep going at it every day, every day. Whether it takes you 50 years, whether it takes you your whole life, you keep going at it. There is no other way to do it. There is no, Somali method. There's no Ottoman method. There's no Bengali method. It is what it is.
How did you go about memorizing the Qur'an in terms of what was your thing? Because maybe someone could take one sort of small benefit from it, or do you remember how it was like?
Like I said before, I used to go 3 hours every day. That 3 hours was enough for me to probably memorize. Like sometimes when I was being lazy and messing around in like my madrasa with my friends, it'd be like half a page. Sometimes if I was on it, if I was feeling really motivated, I'd do 2 pages or 1 page. It doesn't really have a difference. The main thing was those 3 hours every day I went to the madrasa and I read there. Even if I didn't read at home, the fact that my parents sent me to there, I still had the time to memorize. Yeah. And if you want to do it, and this is the thing, sometimes it's good to have a teacher. And I'd say if you want to learn, you have to have a teacher. Because the teacher will keep you disciplined and he will keep you, motivated as well. That's the teacher's job. And at the same time, you will feel like you're responsible to somebody. And this is the thing, we live in a system where we go to school at 9 o'clock, we come at 3 o'clock, where we've got timetables written in for us without even realizing it. And we feel like that if we do other knowledge, we can suddenly just, have no kind of timetable. We can just do it and freelance it or whatever. But we've been, from young, whether it's good or bad, it's been drilled into our heads in a way that from 9 to 5 we work, in this country that is, from 9 to 5 we work, we come home and we relax. So now you want to seek other knowledge. You want to seek other knowledge. Yeah. And now you're saying...
you're in that mindset, that's it, I should be relaxing now.
Yeah. So you want to get back into that kind of, somebody to force you into that kind of timetable. And that's your teacher, inshallah.
And if anyone didn't need a teacher or didn't require a teacher, just to show the importance, it would have been a Prophet ﷺ. Yet, Allah didn't reveal the Qur'an straight into his heart. It was revealed through Jibreel to recite it to the Prophet ﷺ and recited it back. So even the Prophet ﷺ had a teacher.
Yeah, and they used to read it at Ramadan. They used to read together at Ramadan.
SubhanAllah.
Prophet ﷺ used to revise, why can't you revise?
SubhanAllah. Are there any, in terms of revising, so are they mutually exclusive, memorizing the Qur'an and revising the Qur'an?
What do you mean by that?
So in the sense of, some people either feel like they have to spend 6 months memorizing the Qur'an and the next 6 months revising. How important is it that you do both, and what does that look like? Obviously, it's just a general.
The thing is, for me, I did it exclusively because I used to hate revising when I was younger. Because it was just like, for me, it was like, I remember when I said I was in that, I want to finish quick. For me, it was just like, bro, I'll do it after. And then when after came, I didn't do it. Yeah. So it's like, if you want to learn from my mistakes per se, you want to memorize and revise at the same time. And even when I teach, I tell my students, I designate Mondays for revision. I revise and you revise as well. Yeah, so you can see all of us are just revising together.
That's nice.
Yeah, and if they're not revising, they will be caught out one day. I tell them, look, just because you're not saying it to me, because I don't let anybody say it to me. Yeah, because it will be too much. For example, if there's 2 hours, 15 students saying 1 juz each, it's not enough. And I say, this is where you need to practice the skills of revising alone. So I say to them, practice revising. And I tell them each time that if you don't practice now, it will show later on. And I say, for example, if they've memorized Surah Fajr, okay, stop here. We're going to do Surah Fajr to Surah Nas, revision, nothing else, no more test. You're just going to revise. And sometimes they have a look of shock, horror, everything, fear. Sometimes they're like, cool. And you can tell which ones have been revising, which ones haven't. And even for me when I was younger, it would be a look of shock and horror. And more times 9 times out of 10, I'll be trying to find a way to like bamboozle the teacher, and get through it, and like, find a way to keep memorizing and not do the revision.
I think that stems from a misconception that revision is almost stagnation.
Yes.
In a sense of putting time towards revising is slowing down your progress with the Qur'an, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, the Qur'an is meant to be not just memorized for one time. It's meant to be repeated and taught. Because if you see the ulama, when they learned the Qur'an, they didn't learn the Qur'an just to recite it. They learned it to have all types of ilm. And if you see, the Qur'an is like a beacon of ilm. All types of Islamic sciences you have today is because of the Qur'an. Hadith, you have it because you want to explain the Qur'an. Arabic, you want to explain the Qur'an. Fiqh, you're trying to explain the Qur'an, and it's the Sharia that comes with it. All of these sciences, they come from the Qur'an, and they're designed specifically to make the Qur'an legible and accessible to the people. So if you want to be somebody that, like, and we have this problem today, people want to seek knowledge and they become students of knowledge, quote unquote, and they embark on this journey, which is a good thing, but they go about it the completely wrong way. Yeah, they memorize books. They don't memorize the Kitab of Allah. What good would books do when you don't know the Kitab of Allah? And this is what my Shaykh tells me a lot. Yeah, he's like, what good will qawl al-nas do? What good would the speech of people do when you don't know the speech of Allah? And like literally, he told us one of the qawl of Imam Shafi'i, the quotes from Imam Shafi'i. He said that whoever doesn't learn when he's young, then do 4 takbirat over him.
Janazah.
Yeah, do janazah over him, because he's basically dead. Yeah, and he's like to me that from that you need to learn that in your youth you spend your time memorizing the words of Allah, and when you've done that, you memorize the words of the Prophet ﷺ. Because even his words, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى, he doesn't speak from his desires. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَى. It's still wahy, it's still revelation from Allah. And you still see, like, you have Hadith Qudsi, where Allah speaks through the Prophet ﷺ. And he speaks to him, and the Prophet ﷺ narrates it to us. But yeah.
So, your advice for people, is it to take up a daily wird in terms of revising, just so they don't fall into like you mentioned, your mistake? And
I'd say that if you memorized 5 juz, if you want to get into good habits, that is, if you want to be a strong hafidh by the time you finished, you want to finish 5 juz every week.
5 juz every week.
So the same way when you
if you memorize 5 juz.
Yeah. The same way when you finished, you've done just 30. You've done all 30 ijazah, then you're going to finish all 30 in that week. If you want to be strong, that is. Of course, we're not all on that level yet, but we want to be building up to that level slowly, whether it be through 1 quarter, 1 juz, half a juz, even maybe 1 page. Some people can't do that. 2 pages, whatever is up to you. Yeah, but make sure that you're working towards it. And when you start from young and you have that kind of mindset, every week I'm going to finish whatever I've memorized. By the time you memorize, you're going to be doing that off by heart. It's easy for you now. And the thing is, there's a book, Atomic Habits. Yeah, and that book, the message is that you start off creating small habits, and over time those habits, they become huge amounts of success. By, for example, tidying your bed, by doing 10 press-ups every day, doing small things. By the time in 5 years time, you'll see that you've got into habits that you start to clean everything, not just your room. You started to clean the house. You become more cleanly in terms of your cleanliness. And those 10 press-ups have turned into a full workout, and now you're looking like Brother Dawood here.
In terms of that's powerful. That's powerful, subhanallah. And that reminds me of the hadith. أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. That the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the actions which are consistent, even if they're small. أدومها, consistent ones, even if they're small. That's literally what people discovering that now. But subhanAllah, we have that from 1,400 years ago from the qawl of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And again, it goes to show that all knowledge comes from Islam.
Yes.
All knowledge comes from the Book of Allah and the Prophet Islam Sunnah. And we've started to turn away from it slowly as Muslims. We start to go into philosophy. We start to go into many other ways to, find a logic to this world, when Allah has given the most pure book. وَكَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. The kalam of Allah, the words of Allah are superior to all things.
Naam, and that hadith encompasses a lot of things. It's one of my favourite hadiths, favourite hadith I should say, in the sense of small habits compound over time. So even if you start off revising, if for example you memorize the whole Qur'an, you should be completing it in a week, for example, if you want it strong. So in the beginning, you don't need to start off like that.
Yeah.
You can start off with a juz a day, for example.
Yes.
And with it, after a month, if you kept that juz a day consistent, they say even 30, that's how long it takes to build a habit, 30 days.
Yeah.
And it's found how we have the month of Ramadan to build habits, and by the end of that, we should keep those consistent. So you start with a juz, something small, or half a juz, for example. Or
even lower than that.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you. You know yourself best. You know yourself best. As in, for me, it was a quarter that I could do the max, because I had like revision, everything. So I knew if I work hard, if I try my hardest, I stay productive, the max I could probably do was a quarter. Sometimes, obviously, you feel lazy and you miss a day. Yeah, you're human, it's fine. But as long as you don't let that lazy day turn into a year of not reading the Qur'an. And I remember reading a quote, it was from your story actually. Or was it your story? I can't remember. It was on Instagram. That the Qur'an is like, it was something to do with like, where the Qur'an is jealous. Yeah.
If you leave it for
a day, it will leave you for a week. Stuff like that. And you start to realize it very quickly.
For me, anyways, on my journey with the Qur'an, once I memorized it, one thing I wish I got was emphasis on revision.
Yeah, definitely.
Emphasis on revision.
You know, if I was to go back in time, from young, I would have said, just keep revising. You know, like for example, Juz' Amma. It's very easy for most people. Yeah. Memorize it when you're young and you can say it from the top of your head easily now. So you want to make the whole Qur'an like that. And the reason why you can say Juz' Amma so easily is because you repeat it literally all the time.
Yeah.
In your salah, you say it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to recite Surah Baqarah in your salah now. It's small things. You just don't understand it. Just keep repeating. The more khatms you do as a Hafidh, the more likely your Qur'an is going to be strong. And what I mean by khatam, and when we say revising, it's not with looking. And this is what I started off doing. I was like, oh, do five juz a day, and you the whole Quran will be like Surah Fatiha. Let me read 5 juz with looking. 5 juz with looking won't do anything. You just get, reward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you can do? Because some people might be watching this.
Yeah.
And well, honestly, we know between ourselves that we're just at the start of the journey. So they might think that we're just like 24/7, or people that are on this podcast 24/7, they're just on the Qur'an. No. What are things that you do outside the sphere of Qur'an and seeking knowledge, for example, that quote unquote is fun, or is something that, enjoyable, or something that can increase almost your love for the Qur'an, but outside of directly reading it and going to the masjid, for example, if that makes sense? What are some of the things that you can do outside that sphere of just sitting down with the Book of Allah, practically integrating it into your life?
For me, it has to be chilling with brothers that are practicing. And you start to realize how much your love for the deen increases when your love for people is because of the love of Allah. Literally, yesterday, me and one of my brothers, we were sitting and we were messaging one of our ustads. And we said, Wallahi, we love you for the sake of Allah, ustad. And this morning I saw, I love both of you too. Yeah? And stuff like that just makes you smile. It makes you so happy. And when you start to have that all the time, it makes you not just motivated to seek more knowledge and to be more connected to the deen. It just, it takes you a level up as well. Because, for example, you surround yourself with people that aren't as good as you, you're going to drop down. And if you surround yourself with people that are better than you, you'll be as good as them, if not better. And it will be good motivation for you. And you see a lot of the time that, for example, the person who chills with the sheikh, he becomes a sheikh himself. And the person who chills with a person that isn't deserving to be having no honor, they will be somebody with no honor. Thing is, the brothers that I chill with now, I know the majority of them from Jahiliyyah. Like, I used to chill with them before, and we used to do like our stuff before, and we changed together. It can happen. Definitely, it can happen. But would I say that I know everybody from Jahiliyyah? No. Because there are some people that you have to just cut off. And there are some people where you can see, and this is where it comes to أُدْعُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. Call to Allah's path with hikmah, with wisdom, and with good actions, with good mannerisms. So, like, if you see a friend of yours he's got that desire to come to the deen, then you chill with him with the intention of bringing him to the deen. Whereas if you see somebody who is so, like, he's almost like shaitan, like he'll run away from you whenever you say let's go to the masjid. Yeah, not to say people are shaitan, but there are people that, like, there are people, yeah, and when you see that, it should be a sign to you that you should slowly cut ties. Don't cut ties so that you like cause a rift between you, but you start to say, yeah, akhi, I'm just going to go to the mosque. If they don't want to go to the mosque with you, it's now their fault for not going to be friends with you. They've chosen to not come to the masjid with you. Now, for example, if you stay with them while they're doing the haram, yeah, what is upon you is to stay away from them while they're doing the haram. Yeah, because while you're being with them, it's, for example, with us as a so-called practicing person, and this is what the Jews, the Jewish scholars used to do, the rabbis, they used to be quiet about the haram that the Jews used to do, and because of that, the Jews thought it was halal, and this is why the Islam came, and it came to وَأْمُرُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَى عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. It came to command the good and to forbid the evil, because by doing that, people stay on the truth, and you don't blur the lines. Like, for example, now if you say to a Jew or a Christian, a people Ahlul Kitab, if you say drinking is not allowed, Allah has made it haram, some of them will say, yeah, that's true. Some of them will say no, because they don't know, because their scholars, they started to divide, and they used to stay quiet on these issues. So while you, as a good friend, as a practicing friend, if you stay with them while they're smoking, without saying anything, without showing any disgust, and by the way, I say friend because the Prophet ﷺ told us that if you have the ability to change something, you should change it. It's not the exact hadith, but the message is there basically. So,
is that the one with the hands?
Yeah, I was just summarizing basically, yeah. But Sheikh bin Baz actually did an explanation of that. What he meant with that is that if you have authority, then you should change things with your hands. So these are your friends, you should have authority over them, some sort of authority over them. So now, if you say to them, akhi, just stop doing that, I don't want you to do it in front of me. If you do that, I'm not going to chill with you right now. It should have an effect on them. If they really love you, it should have an effect on them, because this is somebody that you love saying, I don't want to be with you anymore if you do this. Now, at the same time, you're not going to say, I'm going to cut you off forever, yeah? Because you never know that you could be their guidance away from Allah could use you as a way to guide them off their immorality. And by cutting them off, you've left them, basically. And I try to use that principle myself. Whenever I see somebody that just annoys me so much, and as you start to become practicing, things that haram, you just become angry when you see it, because when you see something and when you see something Allah, yeah,
it protects jealousy for the command.
Yeah. When you see something Allah hates, you want to hate as well. So it's natural. But you don't want to become so fervent. Like one of the hadith of the Prophet is telling a story where one of the righteous men of the past, he had a friend, and his friend was a fasiq, was a big sinner, and his friend would do loads of sins, and the righteous friend would always remind him, come back to the deen, and every single time he would go back to sinning, until one time the righteous friend said, Wallahi, Allah will never forgive you, you're going to Jannah. And because of that, on the Day of Judgment, Allah will say basically that, who are you to say that he will go to Jannah? And because of that, he will go to Jannah, and the sinner will go to Jannah. Do you see? So you don't want to do something in a moment of anger and having so much, and this is extreme ghira, not good ghira, extreme ghira. We always want to be in the middle as Muslims. So you don't want to be so angry that you turn them away from the religion. Again, we see a lot with young people that they start to practice. They're so zealous over the deen that, for example, if you're not a Salafi, you're not my friend. If you're not a Sufi, you're my friend. You're not my friend, basically. Do you see? They start to become sects between themselves. Whereas, if you had a bit of wisdom, you could have called them to the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Just a little bit. But and this is where it becomes no longer about the deen, it becomes about ego. It becomes about ego at times, because you're no longer calling them to because of Allah. You're calling them because you want them to come. And Allah says, what was the ayah?
واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا. Hold it to the
No. Allah sent the ayah after Abu Talib died, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sad.
Is it consoling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
No. He was saying, you don't guide people.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت.
Yes. إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء. You don't guide people. It's not people who you love that you guide. Only Allah guides.
Alhamdulillah, so we've covered a lot of points in today's podcast. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, the viewers find it beneficial, and these practical tips they're able to implement and take some gems from what was shared. Bi-idhnillah, just before we get to the quick fire, as we had in the previous episode, inshallah, just a recitation from yourself, inshallah, from your favourite verses in the Qur'an, inshallah.
I'll do the beginning of the Qur'an in riwayat Hamza, Khalaf al-Hamza. Inshallah.
I guess Baqarah.
Yeah, I'll start from Surah Fatiha and go into the Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. ملك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألف لام ميم. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين يخادعون الله والذين آمنوا وما يخدعون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس وإذا قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم قالوا إنا كنا معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون. صدق الله العظيم. We finished there.
I love the sakatat, the pauses.
Yeah, the hardest thing as well.
SubhanAllah.
The thing is,
Yeah.
when I do the sakatat as well, it throws you off as well. Because obviously, if I was reciting Asim, it would be so much more easy, just flow. But then sometimes you have to think even more, and it just distracts you a bit more. But alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. On to the quick five, inshallah. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. What is your favourite verse in the Qur'an?
Right now,
Right now.
it's not really a verse. It's just a portion. Surah Ma'idah. إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك. When Isa alayhi salam, Allah says how he will be on the Day of Judgment. What he will say, إن تعذبهم. If you want to punish them, فإنهم عبادك. Then they are your slaves. وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And if you forgive them, then you are the Aziz. You are the great and the most wise. And wallahi, when you think about and deep on the Day of Judgment, how Allah is also great in punishment, and He's also great in forgiveness, and it's just that perfect balance. It just makes you want to run to Him even more.
What's the first verse of the Qur'an that you read, the translation of which affected you deeply?
First,
You might have heard of a citation.
yeah. Okay, it was two actually. فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. Allah says when insan they've been given the ni'mah of Allah, Rabbahu, they will say Allah is good. Rabbi akraman. He's gifted us basically. Then وأما الإنسان وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه. And when we take a bit of like rizq away from them, فيقول ربي أهانن. They curse Allah. They say Allah is ahanan. It made me deep, like the how quick insan is to just make judgments on Allah, and then Allah goes on to refute that. كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم. No, but you feed the poor and all of this, and he goes on to say, and he finishes off the surah in such a nice way. يا أيها النفس المطمئنة. Oh, eased soul. On the Day of Judgment, he will say to the people that have been good, who have got their kitabs on their right hand, ارجعي إلى ربك راضية. Come back to your Lord, who's pleased with you. راضية مرضية. So much, he's so pleased with you. فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. Enter my servants into the Jannah. And when you reflect over those ayahs, it's just so deep. And yeah, wallahi.
Favorite surah of the Qur'an?
It's not just to say if I want only one. Do I have to answer this?
I want one, preferably. It's a difficult one, I'm sure. But if you say like one surah that kind of really like, maybe you enjoy reciting it a lot in salah, but you like the sound of it or the meaning that stands out a lot more.
The thing is, it's so hard. Because I would say Surah Maryam, then I would say Surah Imran, then I'd say Surah Araf, then I'd say probably Surah Ghafir. Wallahi, there's so many surahs.
Why do you like Surah Maryam?
Surah Maryam is just, it sounds nice and it's just such a beautiful story. And like the piety of Maryam alayhi salam. Surah Ghafir, so many warnings, against Fir'aun and the people that believed amongst the Bani Israel. And when you reflect on them, it's so powerful. And if I was to say a favorite ayah from Surah Ghafir, it'd probably have to be Surah Ghafir if I was to choose. Surah Ghafir is قال الذين
إن كل فيها إن الله قد حكم.
Yes, إن كل فيها. Wallahi, that إن كل فيها. We're all in this together. The people of Nar, they're saying, we're all in this together. We're not going to help you. It's just, you have to deal with it. And funnily enough, the thing that came to my mind was like, the High School Musical, we're all in this together. That kind of thing. And it just reminds you, like, wallahi, you seen this earth together? The Jahannam will be, you'll be together. Yeah, wallahi. especially the way Yasir Dosi recites that. Wallahi, oh my God.
وإذ يتحاجون في النار فيقول الضعفاء للذين استكبروا إنا كنا لكم تبعا فهل أنتم مغنون عنا نصيبا من النار قال الذين استكبروا إنا كل فيها إن الله قد حكم بين العباد.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. He's featured a lot on this podcast so far. It's the second episode. The brother before, mashallah.
Yeah.
That was his favourite reciter.
I wouldn't say he's my favourite reciter.
Yeah.
My favourite reciter,
Oh,
if I was to
actually,
say
next
one.
question, but go for it, Bismillah.
My favourite reciter. It depends. If I'm trying to relax, it's like so many shuyukh. Sometimes Mahid, sometimes Mansour Salimi, sometimes the thing is, I like to imitate Minshawi a lot. I just feel like when the way he recites, it feels so powerful, and because his voice is very deep and you use the stomach a lot when you recite like him, like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. When you recite like that, it's just like wow.
It brings out the meaning.
Yeah. And because you recite so slowly and if I was to choose between Husri and Minshawi, I'd always choose Minshawi. Minshawi is something that you can reflect in, really deep the meanings of the Qur'an. But yeah.
If I was to ask favourite riwayah, obviously, mashallah, because you're delving into the riwayat of the Qur'an, what would be your favourite riwayah?
Right now, Riwayat Hamza. Because I'm doing it. But obviously, if I probably do other riwayat later on in the future, inshallah, I'll probably fall in love again,
What would you like to do after riwayat Hamza?
Probably Qaraat Warsh and then doing Jam'. That's the plan, inshallah.
Inshallah. This is jumping from the topic quite a bit, but what would you say your favourite sport is?
My favourite sport? Football.
Football, yeah? Surprise. Favourite country?
That's funny enough. That's how we met.
That is how we met.
Yeah.
I remember that.
We played football together. And then,
Little did we know.
yeah.
When was that? Was that 2018,
It was before lockdown.
2019?
2019, I think. Yeah. It was like year 12 summer.
I was in A-levels, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Year 12, it must be, yeah.
Yeah, when I was in year 12, yeah.
Yeah. I was in year 13 then.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I remember that.
You got the long hair, I got the short hair.
Yeah. It's not that long yet, but inshallah, maybe
You're going out, yeah.
Yeah, inshallah. As in, I always wanted it long, but even it gets to this length, and then my mom's just in my ear all the time, telling me to cut it.
Yeah.
Literally before I came here, she was like, cut it, and she gave me a dirt before I left the house. But
yeah. That. Favourite cuisine, what would you say?
Turkish,
yeah?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. I have to agree with you on that. That's one.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Banging.
So people say it's too bland though, man. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
A lot of Asians say because they have spicy food and they're into their spicy.
I can understand that, but the thing is, there's different types of spices, and if you want to see the food connoisseur in me come out, you can see it right now.
Seriously?
Literally, I was talking about it yesterday with one of my stats. We were eating biryani, and I was like, "This is not proper biryani. It's just spice, and it's not the right type of spice. It's the spice that will give you a stomach ache." So there's that. Some people like that. I don't know how.
Because they're different spices.
Yeah.
I've had good biryani where it's there's spice in there, but there's other flavours coming out.
Yeah.
Then there's one that's just it's just heat.
Yeah, it's not nice.
It's just like
It's not
there's
nice.
a flamethrower there. You just.
Yeah, and there's heat that is nice, but there's heat where it will burn your stomach, and it's not like that I can't survive it. Like, you'll see me still eating the food. I'm Bengali for a reason, but I wouldn't enjoy the food. Yeah, it's not nice.
We might have to set up a separate podcast in the kitchen with
We can,
Daawood,
inshallah.
something like that. With 2 Dawoods.
Yeah.
I was gonna say in terms of so best country you travelled to.
I've only travelled to a few countries. I went Bangladesh, Saudi, and I went to Northern Ireland, if that counts as a country.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what's the best live recitation you've listened to? I like this question because when you listen to a live recitation, it's different from.
Yeah. It would either be between Mahir al-Mu'aqli and The Sheikh from ELM.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know the one that we recited yesterday?
Sheikh Hafidh Rahman.
I'm not sure.
With that, yeah, at the
Yeah, I think he was reciting Warsh yesterday. Yeah, he was reciting Warsh yesterday.
He's done the
Yeah, he was reciting Warsh
11-7.
yesterday. Yeah, he's literally. I'm not gonna say too much. I don't want to.
What song did he recite yesterday?
Yesterday he was reciting Surah Qiyamah, I think.
Best hadith.
Best hadith.
Favorite
Best hadith. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Because obviously there's probably other hadith that probably, you can reflect on more. But it's just that always constant reminder, your intentions need to be pure for Allah. And especially with Riyah. And we don't realize how dangerous Riyah is.
What does that hadith mean for those who...
Okay, yeah. إنما الأعمال بالنيات is basically what it means. Obviously the hadith continues, but it means that actions are judged by their intention. And what we want to do is make sure that our intentions are for Allah. And it's a big problem today, and even if you see the Salaf and the Imam of the past, they all used to say that I fear the most that my intentions are corrupt. And the thing is, you start off most of the time with bad intentions. You start off, I'm coming to this lesson for the food. I'm coming to this lesson because I want to be a talib al-ilm. I want a title. And you start to slowly come off that slowly. Like Imam Ghazali, if you see how he started seeking knowledge, he used to go, because he was poor when he was younger, he started to go for the food only. And what you saw was that when he started to seek the knowledge changed him. And like we said, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. The people who fear Allah the most are the people who have knowledge. And if you see the seeking knowledge started to change him, and we have the Imam Ghazali. Do you see?
I'd love to hear like another recitation from anywhere.
Like I said, if we do subah, like the Somalis call it. Subah is basically, I recite one ayah and he recites another ayah. We'll do something quite easy. I don't want to do something complex and then the people don't understand it. So let's stick to Juz Amma.
Bismillah.
Have you done Shu'bah?
Not up to Juz Amma.
Not up to Juz Amma. Okay. How about this? You recite one ayah of Surah Humazah in Hafs and Asim, and I'll do it in Shu'bah and Asim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ويل لكل همزة لمزة
ويل لكل همزة لمزة
الذي جمع مالا وعدده
يحسب أن ماله أخلده
كلا لينبذن في الحطمة
وما أدريك ما الحطمة
نار الله الموقدة
التي تطلع على الأفئدة
إنها عليهم مؤصدة
إنها عليهم موصدة
في عمد ممددة
في عمد ممددة. And then obviously, because we've chose such an easy surah, everyone memorizes that. It will be better for the audience to get more motivation, inshallah. And also to see the differences between the Qur'an.
Jazakallah khair for coming onto the podcast once again, for accepting the invitation. I just wanted to quickly, inshallah, say Jazakallah khair once again to Dar Al-Arqam for letting us use the facility, Dar Al-Arqam, and they offer once again many free courses for people, all levels. People just begin to learn the Qur'an, people who have memorized the Qur'an, learning how to pray the salawat. There's a course on that. The Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, delivered by various shuyukh, Sheikh Abu Anas, people that experienced and have been delivering talks for many years, alhamdulillah, and qualified in these fields. So these are courses free of charge.
Funny enough, Sheikh Abu Anas, I met Anas the other day. Yeah, I was in a Qur'an, Sheikh Ashik's Qur'an circle.
The Wednesday.
And and mashallah, his beautiful voice. Nice brother, mashallah.
Mashallah, yeah, alhamdulillah, may Allah bless him, may Allah bless his father.
I mean,
so yeah, once again, Jazakallah khair to you for coming to the podcast, accepting the invitation. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, many people benefited from it. I've definitely benefited from that.
Me too.
From this conversation, subhanAllah.
Benefit from you as well.
Alhamdulillah, and it's nice to see people on that same journey and they've gone through their struggles and subhanAllah. So Jazakallah khair for coming once again.
Wayak. Jazakallah khair for having me.
we'd love to, inshallah, have you on future podcasts, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
I enjoyed it, don't worry. I'll be here again, inshallah.
Inshallah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I guess with that, we'll end the podcast there, inshallah. Any final words?
If I was to give a final Naseeha, I'd say not just to the Hafidh, but to the seekers of knowledge, to keep seeking knowledge and to keep firm on this path. The Prophet told us, "Man yuridillahu khayra yufaqihuhu fid din." If Allah wants good for, He gives him knowledge of this deen. And of course, we already talked about it. The greatest knowledge in existence is knowledge of the Qur'an. So if you want Izzah, man kana yurid al-Izzah falillahi al-Izzatu jami'a. Whoever wants honor, to Allah is the all greatest honor, the all honor. So if you want honor, Allah will give you honor, but seek it in the ways that we know gives you honor. Don't go to the streets to find honor. Don't go to the women to find honor. Go to Allah to find honor. And you'll see Allah will elevate you. Allah will rise you to such a place that you didn't even think of. And subhanallah, the Qur'an are the people that will be elevated. Each ayah they read, they will be elevated even higher. So keep firm. Don't give up on this path. And I make dua that Allah makes us all from Ahlul Qur'an. And we know, as we said, Ahlul Qur'an and Ahlullah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. We, inshallah, hope everyone benefits from the podcast. Jazakumullah khair. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لتنافس بكتابنا إن اجتماع الخيرين وفاق